As I was prepping to record for this video, I was realizing I don't actually have any Everquest shirts. I have a Pantheon shirt. I have a shit ton of other ones that are not related at all to this channel. And then I was like, well, shit, I should go look at some. And Etsy has some really cool Everquest shirts. I don't know if y'all seen, but there's some cool stuff on Etsy about Everquest. Go take a look. Some cool creators out there. I don't know. My wallet's not going to thank me later. That's okay. Anyway, welcome. We're going to talk about some EverQuest today, if that wasn't apparent by the little, whatever the fuck that was. Specifically, we're going to talk about EverQuest progression servers. Now, progression servers, I made a video about, I've actually made a couple videos about early on. They're in the card, but I've gotten a lot better, I think, as a creator over the last year, and I'm a little shy about those videos now. So let's kind of, we're gonna revisit some of that while at the same time talking about the servers that are coming out next month in May. The two new progression servers, Yelinak and Vaniki. So first, what is a progression server? An EverQuest progression server is pretty self-explanatory. It's a server that starts at a certain point in the game's history and progresses back on a set schedule with various rules in place. The first progression servers were debuted back in June of 2006. Many things have changed, and I'll get to that in a moment, but the base idea is the same. You get to experience the evolution of EverQuest. Will this be like taking a time machine back to 1999? No. For that, I'd recommend P99 emulator servers. Progression servers have at times been controversial because they have throughout their history tried to appeal to different groups of EverQuest players. Back in 2006, they were the brainchild of Sony Online Entertainment, and they struck a very different tone than they do now, for good or ill. So let's take a quick look at the initial announcements from 2006, and there's some key phrases here to pay attention to. New servers for past players to return to and re-experience a world where talented and skilled players reigned supreme. They were marketing these servers to players who had left or were tiring of live servers and wanted the challenge of the old game. They were courting raiders, essentially, at least that's what I can tell, and honestly it worked. Combine and Sleeper were very successful. So successful that 18 years later, we're still going through progression server cycles. And now with increased frequency. Some might even say too frequent. One of the knocks on the current progression server schedule is how it cannibalizes a small population. Small is of course relative. Small would be this channel at roughly 903 subscribers or more. If you hit that like button and subscribe and get me a little bit closer to that 1,000 subscribers, don't you want to be part of that? Please? Maybe. It makes me happy. But when we talk about small numbers, we need to keep in mind that EverQuest servers need fewer players and have less capacity than some of the newer games. Now, it remains to be seen if that's going to change at all with the new 64-bit client. But when I searched up numbers in the past, it was somewhere around, like there's no exact numbers, but somewhere around 2,500 to 3,500 players per server, which sounds like not much when you really think about it. If anyone has more updated server information from a trusted source, I'd really like to see that. Please link it down below. Put it in the comments. Let me know, because everything I found was speculation. just to say the best, and I'm speculating here. But all that said, EverQuest is still a social game. It's built from the ground up to be that way, and a strong population is pretty essential to the game functioning properly. This is a highlight to many for the start of these new progression servers because it brings everyone out of the woodwork to start together. That's not to say you can't enjoy the game solo, but that's not how it was built, and you're probably gonna struggle a bit. You won't even have mercenaries until years on in progression server timeline. Essentially, you're going to have to talk to people. I know, right? As an introvert with pretty severe social anxiety hiding behind a camera, I get it. It's tough. Talking is tough. You can do it. I believe in you. Fast forward to last year with Thornblade and Mischief, and there's some significant differences in the language that I want to highlight. Like all progression servers, Mischief and Thornblade invites everyone to experience EverQuest as it grew over time, starting with the original launch zones and adding expansions over time. Again, with changes inspired by that devious, unloving god of tricks. Read on for details and the release cadence. Progression servers are no longer being targeted for older people or the quote-unquote hardcore. There's tangible proof of this shift in focus, and it's why I suggest them to players that are returning to the game over live most of the time. There are a few minor tweaks and changes like raid currencies, but there are two main things I want to point out as the shift toward the game being more open and accessible to other players. Zone instancing. A huge issue with the earliest progression servers was the clogging at the beginning of the server. When you were limited to just classic, there weren't many leveling paths and you'd have hundreds of people trying to use zones designed for 50. This could result in a lot of negative interactions with players such as training, kill stealing, bullying, etc. And extended periods of really just doing your best to get a single kill, which is mind numbing. I just wanted that one freaking decaying skeleton. You know what? It's fine. XX Sephiroth can't hurt me anymore. I know he followed me around and killed all my decaying skeletons, but that's okay. I hope he's doing well. Let the anger go. It's okay. So the way that Everquest solved this was to add what they call pick zones. Pick zones open up when a zone is at capacity, so you can pick to an entirely new zone. This means in South Row, you can have 3 versions of the zone with 50, 47, and 28 people. It's not an instance so much as it's another version of the same zone existing simultaneously, making it still feel the same. You don't feel cut off from the other players of the world, or at least that's not how I felt. The second is Agents of Change. Now I made a video on Agents of Change and it's up here in the card, and the video is why I think it's one of the best things Everquest has done in recent memory. Agents of Change open up raiding to so many more people. For a highlight of the game, raiding in Everquest for a long time was limited to people who could afford to sit around for 12 hours at a time to catch a spawn in window. I don't want to rehash my arguments I made in the AOC video here, so go check it out. You can tell me I'm wrong in the comment section both there and here. It helps my metrics. Let's transition over to some of the general positives and negatives about what to expect from progression servers. First positive is going to be people. You know, that same thing that was scary earlier, well, it's kind of an important part of the game. The start of a progression server is a special time because you're starting with so many people, so many individuals that are interested in the same game you are. Now, some of these people will have been running the progression circuit for over a decade, others it may be their first one, and you may even run into some who are new to the game, period. It's really just an opportunity to meet a lot of people that you may become friends with. As I've mentioned a couple times on this channel, I've met 2 lifelong friends from playing progression servers. But there are negatives and you should be prepared for them going into it. There's really 2 big negatives that could make you decide not to try the progression server at all. First is that the economy will be heavily focused on chrono, the currency that you can buy for real money and can be used to redeem for a month of game time. This is perhaps the biggest gripe many players have with Everquest, but don't expect it to go away anytime soon because it works for them. The second part is going to be the rush. Yes, there will be players who take their time leveling and go at a more casual pace, but progression servers still appeal largely to players that want to tear through content compared to the original release time of Everquest, where you had a year between most expansions. That's now shortened to as little as 4 weeks. It can be easy to feel left behind, especially when grouping is essential. But let's get into the servers that are coming out, and you can try and see which one might be good for you and what you're looking for. First, we're gonna have Yelinak. Yelinak is going to be a traditional progression server, which I personally know as the Finagil model. This server will follow what's essentially become a proven model for progression servers over the last 6 years. Finagil was the server that kind of tested all these new things like pick zones, Agents of Change, experience rates, currencies, and expansion cadence. This has since been used in multiple servers, and honestly, it's a very good middle round. The rules are as follows. It starts in Classic, with Kunark opening in 4 weeks, Velius 8 weeks later, Lucklin 8 weeks later after that, Plains of Power, where most of you will leave, but you really shouldn't because Everquest is much more than just the first 3 expansions in the Classic game. Please don't flame me in the comments for liking all the game. I just do. Sorry. It will launch alongside Legacy of, I'm not pronouncing that name because y'all will make fun of me if I try and say Yakisha. Yakisha? Yaksha? What the hell does it say? I don't know. And then 12 weeks after those two expansions, you will get Lost Dungeons of Noreth. The last unique time frame is 4 weeks between Lost Dungeons of Noreth and Gates of Discord. And then it settles into a consistent schedule of 12 weeks between expansions with new level caps and 8 weeks between expansions with no level cap increase. That's a solid chunk of time, and it means the server will take you years to reach live. If you want an experience closer to original EverQuest between these servers, this is going to be the one to pick. Now let's move on to Vaniki, the new rule set server. With Vaniki, EverQuest is trying something new: level locked versus expansion locked. Well, what does this mean? Essentially, you will have level caps, but access to content that included higher level zones. The server will launch with up to Gates of Discord unlocked, which had a level cap of 65, but the server will be capped at level 40, which is actually lower than Classic. 4 weeks later, the cap moves to 50. Then 2 weeks later, 55, etc., etc. You can see the unlock schedule on the screen right now. So what do I think of this? I like it a lot. Like, I really like this idea, and let me tell you why. I'm excited for two main reasons. They're trying something new, which I think is good to see. EverQuest is finding a path, I believe, with trying new things while also respecting nostalgia, as seen with the simultaneous launch of Yelinak. But more importantly to me, this functionally makes more zones viable. EverQuest through the decades had a lot of great lower level zones added that are often ignored on progression servers, since by the time they're out, the majority are at cap. It makes me hopeful to see groups in Iceclad and Grimling Forest, for example, at launch, or maybe even Natimbi or Jagged Pine. It just shifts the best leveling path a little bit and also helps alleviate some crowding. This also means all classes will be available at launch, which hasn't happened before. Beastlord and Berserker fans rejoice. If you're a veteran of progression servers, this might be a new and fun thing to try out. Now, there's one more wrinkle I want to talk about here that's coming with these progression servers that's a deviation from the past, and that's relaxed Truebox. On April 8th, Ascendo, the community manager for EverQuest, updated on the producer's letter thread a new feature in progression servers that I think is a great idea. Anyone familiar with EverQuest knows about boxing. It began decades ago when computers grew strong enough to run multiple instances of EverQuest. The way EverQuest was built, it was often quite easy to effectively box multiple characters. For various reasons, this got out of hand to the point where I remember being on a raid on the Ragefire server that was 50% boxed characters. Imagine trying to figure that shit out as a raid leader or a loot caller. Ugh, nightmares. EverQuest's answer to this was something called Truebox, which doesn't let you run more than one instance of EverQuest on that PC. You can still box on another PC, but it definitely makes doing something insane like boxing 20 characters much less likely. Both of these servers will begin with Truebox enabled, meaning you can only play one character at a time. For Yelinak, they will move to relaxed Truebox once Omens of War launches, allowing you to run up to 3 clients on one PC. For Vaniki, this happens when Prophecy of Ro is open. By Buried Sea, Truebox will be eliminated on both servers. This feels in line with the drops in population and may allow the servers to stay busy longer. I'm in favor of allowing players to play the game that they want to play how they want to play it, as long as it's not impacting others. And the arguments can be made of how it does or does not impact others, and it's a argument that's been going on for 20 years, so you're probably not going to change anyone's opinion on whether boxing is good or bad. So please just be kind and respectful to each other in the comments, and this is where you ignore everything I'm saying.
I'm in danger!
Hi. Basically, I can see the arguments on both sides of it. I just want people to have fun playing the game. I want to end with a couple quick tips on progression servers. First is going to be join a guild. If you'll find guilds. The easiest way that I found to find guilds is not necessarily going to like common lands or the out of character chats, although that is where I found my guild that I was in for 4 years. But the easiest way is going to be go to the official forums, look in the progression server and the guild recruitment server sub forums, and try and find a guild that fits your playstyle. That's one of the most important parts. Find a guild that fits you and just make some friends in the guild. It will make your time in the game much more fun. Next is going to be set your goals. Are you trying to raid? Are you trying to push content? There's achievements on the Vaniki server. Do you want to be in a guild that's going to be going for those kind of achievements? Are your goals more like about leveling? Do you want to be the first to max level? those kind of things. What are your goals? Do you just want to go in game and have fun? Going in with this idea of what you're wanting to get from the server will probably make it a more fun experience for you. Next is going to be play with friends. If you have friends that are interested in the game, make sure you're playing with them, because again, Everquest is social. Most of us are not going back to Everquest because it has some of the most engaging and fun, exciting gameplay that you can get. It's not Elden Ring. It's a game where you can enjoy yourself and enjoy the social aspects of it while achieving things in game together, common goals and things like that. There's a reason why for a long time Everquest was referred to as a very pretty chat simulator. There's a big social component here, and if you're doing it with friends, it's gonna make it a lot more fun for you. Prepare for launch issues. I'm going on an adventure. 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 On an adventure. Going on an adventure. I'm going on an adventure. Just prepare for launch issues. You're gonna have queues and you're gonna have downtime. And you know, as much as it may feel like it does work, complaining about it does actually not make the queues faster, nor does it make the servers come up. I know. I tried. Next is going to be a bit of a sad thing, but prepare for server population drop as the server progresses. It will happen. People will rush to the game when it starts, and the population will trickle down from there. You'll occasionally see a big burst in population when a new expansion comes out, but it will continue to decline as the server ages, and it's just something to be prepared for. Especially one of the ways that you'll start to see it is, you know, in the bazaar, once that's open, and you'll just see how few names you get to see on there. It's a little bit sad, but it's kind of how these servers go. They have a life cycle. My name is Redbeard Flynn. Thank you for revisiting this old gem of an MMO with me. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I look forward to seeing you again next week.